Hey everyone, welcome back to my another fourth tutorial part about optimizing Bitcoin trading bot model and reward strategy to increase profitability. So in last article, we used deep reinforcement learning to create a Bitcoin trading agent that could be demarketed. Although our agent was profitable compared to random actions, the results weren't all that impressive, so this time we are going to step it up and we'll try to implement a few more improvements with the reward system. And we'll test how our profitability depends on neural networks model structure. And of course, you'll be able to download everything from my GitHub repository. So here it is. I already have uploaded everything to fourth tutorial part. I would like to mention that while writing my reward strategy, it was quite hard to find what reward strategies others use in reinforcement learning while implementing automated trading strategies. It's quite hard to find what others do, and if I could find it, these strategies were poorly documented and quite complicated to understand. I believe that there are a lot of interesting and successful strategy solutions. But for this tutorial, I decided to rely on my own intuition and try my own strategy. Of course, I'll open my code probably, and someone might think that our reward function from previous article where we will calculate net worth change every step is best we can do. However, this is far from the truth. While our simple reward function from last time was able to do small profits, it would often lead us to losses in the capital. To improve on this, we'll need to consider other metrics to reward besides simply unrealized profit. The main improvement that came to my head is that we must not only reward profits from holding Bitcoin while it was increasing in price, but also reward for profits from not holding it while it decreasing in price. For example, we could reward our agent for any incremental increase in net worth while it is holding a Bitcoin USD position, and again reward it for the incremental decrease in value of Bitcoin while it is not holding any position. We'll implement this by calculating our reward when we sell our held Bitcoin or we buy Bitcoin after our price drops. So here I scrolled up to this get reward function which I wrote, and before it was simple net worth difference calculator. Between orders, while our agent does nothing, we won't use any rewards because these rewards are calculated with a discounted function. When I used this reward strategy, Anud said that my agent usually learns to hold instead of learning to do profitable orders, so I decided to punish it for doing nothing. So here I wrote a simple line where I subtract 0.01% of net worth every step. This way our agent learned that it's not the best idea to keep holding Bitcoin or open positions forever. Also, it understood that sometimes it's better to cut the loss and wait for another opportunity to make an order. Actually, you can analyze and see my code I updated. I'm not showing here my code from previous tutorial, but if you are interested, you simply can open the GitHub link in the description and go to third part where you can find the previous tutorial code. If you are watching or reading my tutorial without getting familiar with my previous tutorial or full code, probably you can't understand this code. So of course, as I said, check it here on my GitHub where I have everything, and I hear all the four parts already here, so just visit it. As you can see from this code, the first thing we do, we calculate the punishing value that is cumulative every step. If orders are made, we set it to 0, actually here or here. If we would look at the if statement, we would see that we have two of them when we do buy just after sell and vice versa. You might ask why sometimes I use self trades of -2 step and sometimes I use of -1. Well, because we can't do an actual profit when we sell our Bitcoin and we do buy later, except of course margin trading or etc. But in this way we can calculate what we didn't lose while selling high and buying low. while I was developing this strategy and writing code for it, I was quite tricky to understand if I implemented it correctly. So I decided to improve our render function in utils.py with following code. Before here was some kind of static code, and actually there was something like -10 and so on. But actually what I did, right now I made it to calculate a range between maximum and minimum of render range. So it's now a little bit dynamic. Now instead of using hard-coded offset within hello, I calculate that range. This way we could use the same rendering graph for different trading pairs. Well, actually I didn't test it yet, and I hope that we could use it without modifying our offset. But most importantly, I'm adding the reward number below the buy order arrow and above the sell order arrow. This helped me actually to understand if I implemented my reward function correctly. So you can take a look at it in this image. Looking at this chart, it's quite obvious where our agent did profitable orders and where they were really bad. This is the information we'll use to train our agent actually. This is the reward that will feed to our neural networks. Next, I would like to talk about model modifications I did. We probably know that our decisions mostly depends on our knowledge of what good or bad decisions we did in our lab, how fast we are learning new stuff, and the list can continue. All of this depends on our brain functionality. The same is with the model. Everything depends on what brains we have and how well it's trained. The biggest problem is that we don't know what architecture we should use for our model to beat the market. The only way left is to try different architectures. So before, we already used a basic dense layer for our actor and critic neural networks, which are given here. Here was one of critic and one of actor models, and fully dense layer, flattened, and so on. But right now, this was one of the basic methods we tried, but somewhere on the internet I read that it's a good idea to have some kind of shared layers between actor and critic. This means that, for example, two-fist neural network should be used by both networks, and only the next layer should be separated. And here how I wrote this, that here is my critic model and here is my actor model, and I inserted them both in shared model. And actually what we do, for example, dense will be our basic model, and at first we use a flattened layer, that we use shared dense layer, and only after that our first layer output goes to actor and critic layers respectively. So to understand this better, I can show you this image, for example, and as you can see that we have two separate models, and one for critic and one for model. And actually this is an example what I took to train and test, and actually we'll see the results. Also, we'll try to use recurrent neural networks used for time series and convolutional neural networks, which are mostly used for image classification detection, and you already can see that I wrote these. So first I would like to introduce you with recurrent networks, and that's one of the obvious changes we need to test, is to update our model to use a recurrent long short-term memory network in place of our previous dense network. Since recurrent networks are capable of maintaining an internal state over time, we no longer require sliding lookback window to capture the motion of the price action. Instead, it is inherently captured by the recursive nature of the network. At each time step, the input from the data set is passed into the algorithm, along with the output from the last timestamp. I'm not going to remove it yet from my code, so it won't mess up, and we'll be able to test which of our model performs better. And also, I'm quite unfamiliar with LSTM networks, so I don't know why by myself how to implement them properly. But I'll add a quite informative introduction to it and I'll insert the link on my text version tutorial to show you what I used, and actually here is an image I can show you. That's not the best quality, but I took this image from the link in the description, and this LSTM model structure allows to maintain an internal state that gets updated at each time step as the agent remembers and forgets specific data relationship. And actually, I'm not going too deep into LSTM because, as I said, I'm not very familiar with it, but I have plans to do time series analysis and tutorial series in the future. So this is how our model will look like with LSTM shared layer. I can show you this on my code, and actually this is very similar to the dense, but instead in first layer, while we were doing flattening, we will use a LSTM layer, and to insert second LSTM layer we must write here a return sequence. So that's actually give us the right shape in the output layer. So that's it. We'll test this out. Next, I would like to talk about convolutional neural networks, and which have been by far the most commonly adopted deep learning model. Meanwhile, the majority of the convolutional neural network implementations in the literature were chosen for addressing computer vision and image analysis challenges. With successful implementation of CNN models, the model error rates kept dropping over the years, while new convolutional neural networks complicated architectures are invented. Nowadays, almost all computer vision researchers, one way or another, implement convolutional neural networks in image classification problems. In this paper I'm showing right now, you can see that there was introduced a study where author proposed a novel approach that converts 1D financial time series into 2D image-like data representation in order to be able to utilize the power of deep convolutional neural networks for an algorithmic trading system. However, the authors wrote an interesting article and made quite impressive results. Their proposed CNN model trained on time series images performed quite similar to LSTM networks, sometimes even better, sometimes worse. But major improvement in the convolutional neural networks doesn't require as much computational power and time to train the model. So we'll train our agent and test it within the following architecture I wrote here, and simply we'll use a Con1D max pooling, Con1D again layer, max pooling, and then we'll use flatten, and only then we'll send these to actor and critic respectively layers. Next, I would like to talk about other minor changes I did in my code. So up to this point we mainly talked about our reward and model improvements, but there are also other ways where we can make our lives easier when training and testing different models in between. First of all, I changed the way how we save our model, because I don't know when the model is overfitting and what signalizes about this sign. At least right now I decided to save every best model. So instead of saving the best model on top of our older models, I'm creating a new folder where I will save these models, and I'll use the average reward as name for it. So if we would go to save function, as we can see here, I use a log name. This will be my folder name. Here will be my score, and of course name for my actor, and respectively for critic. So I wrote it similarly here. Also, in my previous tutorial, I noted that it's quite hard to remember all the parameters we set while testing training every new model. So I'm creating a parameters txt file, and here it is, a file in the same model saving location. I noticed that when I was testing my own models, it gets quite messy and I can't remember what and where the best results of my model were. So I write the following parameters to a text file. As you can see, there is quite a lot of them. Here I save save the time when I start training, when I finish training. I start the initial balance, learning rate, look back window, how many epochs, batch, and of course normalized value. That's actually a lot of parameters I could find is useful and which we mostly would change. So right now I will know what initial balance I started with, what look back window I used, what learning rate was used for training, how many epochs I used for one episode, what normalization value I used, and finally I can write what model type I used. This makes my test results much easier. And another important step in our testing results, it's convenient to have them in one place for comparison simplicity. So I inserted the following lines. So if I write with open, not this one, but should be results. So I inserted, as you can see, these new lines to my code. With these results, we can compare with what average net worth our agent traded all testing episodes, how many orders it did on average through the episodes, and one of the most important metrics would be no profit episodes. This will show us how many episodes we've finished in the negative side through our testings. Also, there are a lot of metrics we could add, but now it's enough for us to compare and choose the best we need. Also, this way we'll be able to test the bulk of models at once, leave it for a night, and to check results in the morning. Of course, if you can do this. Also, I did a little modification to the model save function, which I actually show you right now. Now while saving our model, we'll be able to log our parameters about the current saved model timestamp with the following function. I'll go back to save function, and actually you can see the log saved arguments to file. And actually, if we will give some kind of arguments to args parameter, we will write them to a txt file, and we could read it, log it whenever we want, and we might see the history of our saved models. So okay, this took a while to explain this. I was trying to do this as fast as possible, but that's the moment, and I would like to go right now to the training and testing part. Right now we have three different model architectures: dense, CNN, and LSTM. From this point, I invested my time and my 1080 Ti GPU to make this first comparison between architectures. As already mentioned, I trained all models on the same dataset with the same parameters. I only changed the model type. After training, I was able to compare training durations, compare TensorBoard training graph, and of course, I got my trained models. So I tested all of these trained models on the same testing dataset, and we'll see how they perform on unseen market data. That's the point, unseen market data. So if we would go to the end of this code, you will see that there is a lot of testing lines, but actually I already uploaded these models to my GitHub. But if you would like to test and train it by yourself, you should comment all these lines below and uncomment these. So you could start the training actually. Everything is there what you need. So you just need to clone my GitHub repository, install the requirements, and actually you're ready to go. So when the training starts, usually you can see that a new folder with the current date time actually I can show you. So you can see that when I was start training, the new current date and time were created in the same folder where we can find the parameters txt file. So if I'll go, for example, to this one, there is my files actually, and here is my parameters txt file. If I would open this file, we can see all our current usage settings in it. So let's open it, and as you can see, this was my dense network trained for 40,000 steps, and it took me only 5 hours of training. Actually, because I have a quite nice GPU and strong CPU and so on. So for you it might take much longer, twice or 3 times, doesn't matter. But follow my tutorial and I'll give you a solution to this. As you can see, in this file we saved all parameters that we used to train our model. We can even see how long it took to train our model. This helps later when we will try to find the best optimized model, or even when we train different models manually. Usually because it takes some time. As you can see, it's easy to forget what parameters we used. Also, we can see that log.txt file was created. I can open it. And here we saved all saved model statistics at that time. This might help to find the best model we trained that is not overfitting. But it's up to you. All the models our agent saves are located in the same directory, but right now, as you can see, I removed all my saved models to save space because the folder took few gigabytes, and I simply removed them because I don't use them, but it's up to you. You can train it and use whatever you want. We'll be testing them. We'll need to specify the right directory and name of our model. So right now I can show you a snip from my TensorBoard. Well, I will save my time showing you the snip. In this snip, you can see the training dense curve, orange color, and convolutional networks, blue color curves, and networks for 50k training steps. Well, actually, there is no LSTM because by my mistake, I deleted this log, so we can see it here. So actually, sorry for this, but later this is not the last tutorial I'm making, so I will do them later. So it took me too long that I didn't want to train it again. So doesn't matter. So actually, looking at this right now, let's compare our dense and convolutional network models and how they train it. First, let's look at average net worth graph. Left top graph. As we can see, our convolutional model learned to get much higher rewards in that time, but we shouldn't trust these results blindly. I think that our convolutional neural network might be overfitting. First of all, it seems very suspicious to me how our created network was training and how the critic loss per replay graph look for our convolutional neural networks. Numbers are 100 times bigger than while training the dense model. Second, while looking at our actor loss per replay graph, we can see that while training the dense model, we might see quite a beautiful curve, but while seeing the CNN training actor loss curve on the same graph, it gives some kind of training instability. We can see that this curve was coming in up direction since around 20k episode and somewhere there. But okay, this is my preliminary view. We'll test both models, that one on the curved top and the best model by average net worth. Also, it's quite interesting to see the average episode orders graph because we added a punish value onto our reward strategy. It's quite logical that our model tries to avoid this punishment and learn to do as many orders as possible. But instead of doing orders every step, it learned that, okay, sometimes it's better to be punished and wait for better order conditions where it could get a positive reward, actually. That was quite impressive for me, and this signs that, yes, our model is learning actually something. So next, I would like to talk about testing our model and actually show you the results. As you already know, we trained 3 different models. As I mentioned, for 50k training steps, we of course could test all of them at once with the following code I wrote on my GitHub code, but in my previous tutorial, our simplest dense network for 1000 episodes scored $1,043 average network. This is the score we want to beat actually. First, I trained it and tested the dense network and received the following result, and this is the first one. As you can see, in previous tutorial, we didn't measure how many orders per episode our model does and how many orders finished in negative net worth through 1000 episodes, but this metric is not that important as the new no profit episodes metric, because it's better to have lower profit but be sure that our model won't lose our money. So it's best to evaluate net worth together with the profit episodes metric. Anyway, we can see that our current dense model with the new reward strategy did a little better actually. We scored 1054 net worth, and we made only 40 episodes which went to negative net worth. Well, I think that's quite impressive. Next, I trained CNN models. 2 of them I tested because actually, as you can see, results talk by themselves. And you might find a lot of articles about CNNs and time series, but this is not the topic to talk about that. So I'll take the saved model with the best average reward. And as you can see what I have. As we can see, our model doesn't perform as well as it was performing while training. It's obvious that we have some kind of overfitting with it, and results are terrible. 34% of orders had negative ending balance, and profit was even worse than the random model would do. So as you can see, I decided to test another CNN model. Here's the name of our model that has less overfitting, relying on the TensorFlow graph I showed you before. So as you can see, this model performed much better than training it up to the end, but still our simplest dense network wins against it with a testing dataset. And the last, I thought that let's try to train the LSTM network. It's created for time series data. It should perform well. To train LSTM network took around 3 times longer than dense and CNN networks, so as I was really sad when I wasted so much time and received awful results. I thought that I totally gonna do something interesting, but now we have what we have actually. Well, the results speak by themselves, and orders per episode and no profit episodes are just terrible. And I'm not sure if I would like to talk about that. So going back, I will show you simply how it looks for our test environment agent. And actually, I'll change this to true, so you will see how it works in reality and how it looks like. So as you can see, I'm having in here, and I'll run this in terminal. So let's write Python reinforcement learning and so on. And don't forget that I set a true to visualize it, and 10 episodes actually. And let's run it. And actually, let's wait for a few episodes. Well, actually there should be 100, but you might see these little boxes where I write the reward our neural network receives. Blue is our net worth curve, which shows us and calculates the current balance. If we have USD or Bitcoin, doesn't matter. And actually, as you can see here, if we did sell and we do buy here, we get a profit reward. And if we do buy here and we sell here, we have a negative reward. And that's the idea how I reward my neural networks. And actually, as you can see, this is the information I send to my neural networks, and that's actually what is used to learn. And that's it. I don't know what else to tell. Well, results talk by themselves, and I don't know. That's the end of this tutorial. So I decided to stop this tutorial here because it took me too long to do this written experience and compare them, but I'm glad that at least I was able to improve my dense network profitability with a new strategy. So I won't rush to say that it is not appropriate to use CNN and LSTMs to predict the time series market data. In my opinion, we use too less trading data that our model could properly learn, and all market features to be learned, of course. So I won't give up so easily. Still, I think that our neural networks can beat the market, but our model needs more data. So I have plans in the near future to write at least 2 more tutorials. First, will try to implement indicators to our market data, so our model will have more features to learn for. Second, it's quite obvious that we are using too less training data to train our model. We'll write some script to download more historical data from the internet, and finally, we'll write a copy of our custom trading environment that we could use it in parallel. So we could use multiprocessing to run multiple training environments to speed up the training process. And that's it. Thanks for watching this tutorial. And as always, all the code given in this tutorial can be found on my GitHub page and is free to use. See you in the next tutorial part. There is still a lot of work to do. Follow me, like this video, share it, and you'll be notified when another tutorial will see the daylight. Of course, I should mention that all of these tutorials are for educational purposes and should not be taken as trading advice. You should not trade based on any algorithms or strategies defined in this or previous or future tutorials, as you are likely to lose your investment. So thank you all for watching and see you in our next part. Goodbye.